I'm going to be joined by Code, who goes by Code Paints. And we're going to be able to explore some of his pieces, which I'm particularly fond of. He is a modern pop artist, so lots of bright colors, really cool, like street art type of style. Anyway, let's give Code a minute here or so to join us, and then we'll get things kicked off.
Hey,
Hey, okay, there we go. We're in business.
there we go. Now we got it. Yeah, I don't know what
Awesome.
happened. It just wouldn't let me click it for some reason.
No problem. Happens to the best of us. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's give folks another minute or so to log in because I did have to end the initial live that I started.
Oh,
But by the way, I love the paintings so far that I could see in the background. So we'll definitely have to get started there. So while people kind of sign in, I'll give a little bit of background on myself and then I'll kick it over to Code. He'll introduce himself, and then we're going to get right to it. So we're going to take a look at a lot of his different paintings. We're going to learn about the inspiration as to like why he became an artist, if there's any type of meaning behind the pieces. And then we'll learn a little bit about your process and stuff if you're, comfortable sharing that with us. So just for those of you that are new to Art Basel and Beyond, this was an art initiative, if you will, that I started during COVID. And really what I wanted to do is capture the essence of Art Basel and all of really Miami Art Week and the whole art fair vibe, because it's so much more than just going to a gallery and looking at a painting. You really get to experience it when you go to these art fairs. And what occurred to me is that it would be so much more substantive, if that's a word, to be able to actually speak directly with the artist and learn more about who they are, the works they create, and how they sort of come into creation. So Amy Schechter, who was our last Instagram live interview, had recommended Code to me. And the only rule that I really have here is that I have to love the work. So I checked out the Instagram feed. Code, obviously, I'm a huge fan of your stuff. We talked earlier about that. So I think that being said, I'll kick it over to you for a little bit of brief introduction. Then we could take a look at some of the paintings behind you.
sure. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm stoked to do this. So yeah, for everyone that doesn't know me, my name's Code. I'm a mixed media artist from Southern California, born and raised out in Corona. And yeah, it's kind of like Southern. I live right now in Orange County, my wife, my dog. And I I love pop culture. I paint that just it's just in me. I love movies. I'm a big movie nerd. Anyone that knows me really well knows I can just pull these quotes from like just the back of my head. And so you'll see a lot of that like within my work. I try and do my best to if I'm painting about a subject, I do my best to do the research. If it's like about a flick, um, that someone's commissioned me to do, I'll do my best to kind of like really code in and put these different little things from the movie or from whatever's happening in your life. And um, yeah, I like to just kind of experiment. I've only been painting and trying to take this seriously and do it for like 4 years. So there's still a lot to learn, but I feel like I'm finally getting a like traction on finding like me and my style and just moving forward. I got a lot of irons in the fire right now, so
That's awesome. And your day job is as a content creator, right? So that kind of like bleeds over into this creativity you got, sort of say.
Oh, dude, totally. I've pretty much had like a camera in my hand since I was 13, making like scooter and skate videos with my best friend back in the day. So the camera stuff has been very familiar to me. Same thing with
Okay.
creating logos. I had a clothing company for like 10 years. I did like the Vans Warped Tour and all that stuff. And I did that when I was 18 on. And so
Awesome.
it's the videos, making logos, designs, and then just the creativeness within me that kind of just, I don't know, I kind of got funneled into being a content creator. And now it's, it's a really great career to have. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Can you show us that painting behind you with the blue cartoon? It looks familiar to me. I can't figure out what cartoon it is. Yeah, that one. I
Yeah,
can't say right because my right's going to be your left.
sure. So,
But it just looks so cool. And one of the things that I like about your work is not only like the colors that you use, but how you blend them all together. And that particular piece just kind of caught my eye. I'd love to, if you could tell us a little bit more about that, that'd be great.
yeah, sure. So it's not actually completely done. I wanted to have some stuff in the background, but I love the way that this one is taking shape. And so this one is, the saying says it all, live fast. This is actually the second iteration of this one I've done. And this one's a lot more loose and fun. So you got obviously some fast characters. That's Sonic the Hedgehog. And then you got,
Sonic, right. Duh.
yeah. And then you got Speed Racer here. And I actually just did something really fun with Speed Racer. There is this like really light blue tint spray paint that doesn't have a ton of opacity. So I use that for like his goggles. So obviously you got the skin tones here, but then you spray that and it just gives that really cool effect
Oh, that's
of some
neat.
shades.
So are you using like oil paints, acrylics, or are you using spray paints like a street artist typically would? What are you using to create these?
So like I'm doing a little bit of everything. I love acrylic markers and acrylic just that's kind of why I'm a mixed media artist. I mix a ton of different stuff. So on some
Okay.
pieces I will do oil. But oil bars like towards the end to like do some cool
Yeah.
things. Let's see. So if you look here, this is a perfect example because this one is just about almost done. So maybe like how I'll start the piece is with um, put a bunch of acrylics, use sponge brushes, then use like a spray bottle. It allows me to help drip and do some of these faded more effects. And then towards the end, when let's see, I'll use some oil bars and you can kind of see that crayon texture. I just love the way that looks.
Yeah.
And
You know,
then I'll blend some in with my finger here. And that's just how I get these different just fun textures. And then when you like, you can definitely tell when you're in close, but when you zoom out, it just takes on a life of its own, I think.
it's so interesting because usually like when I think of mixed media, and this is not to say one's right or one's wrong, but I usually imagine and it's tough to even say this because technically the materials you're using, they are different materials, right? A crayon is obviously very different from paint. But when I think of mixed media, for some reason my mind jumps to like different types of plastics, resins, acrylics, and then I also start to think of different like metals. So I think like carbon fiber, I think of concrete, I think of a bunch of different types of materials. In your situation, you're using things that are all two-dimensional or one-dimensional, if that's a fair statement, but they're all different types of materials in their own right, kind of. So although it's crayons and markers, they live kind of within the same family. So it's a different way, at least for me personally, to look at something as mixed media. And I'm glad you pointed that out because I think it adds so much to the paintings, but it's things that people like myself wouldn't necessarily pick up on, especially at first glance.
Yeah, because so on some of these pieces, I don't have them here, but on a lot of other ones, like I saw you posted the Medusa one earlier. So to me, that's a
Love the
perfect.
Medusa, yes.
Thank you. So to tell like that story with Poseidon and oh my gosh, the goddess's name is escaping me. But anyways, I used these different paper mediums to get that real comic book look. So I printed those out. So mixing those, and then on top of that, painting on different things to me is like mixed media. So like another example of that would be I found this really cool just suitcase. This is another work in progress. Let's see. I got this at the Goodwill, and
Oh, that's awesome.
I kind of just went to town on it and made all these rich money characters. You got Bruce Wayne, you got Mr. Krabs, um, Scrooge is in the back, Mr. Burns, there's his nose. And so to me, it's just kind of like mixing it up, man.
So how do you get like the ideas for this? Do you plan these out in advance? Is there like a planning process, or do you just kind of pick up the paint and get started and just kind of let it unfold?
Oh man, I will tell you where I spend most of my nights. Me and my
He's
wife,
breaking out the iPad, so that means there's a planning process here.
the off Parks and Rec, what have you. And so where it will start is doing some line work. So right now I'm actually working on a piece for a comedian, and her character is there it is. She's the entitled housewife. And so I I wanted to just take one of her most iconic photos, and then I do the line work on top of that, and then later on I'll maybe do the printout of her face, and then I'll paint over it and just kind of get crazy with it.
So what do you think the amount of time is that it takes you from start to finish on something? Is it something that is like it's kind of like weeks in development, or do you just need like a couple days to put it together and whip something up?
It depends. So it depends on, could be like how inspired I am about the subject matter. If it's something that I have like just the total knowledge about, it could take me within a week to create a piece now. But
Okay.
if that I got to dive in, or if I just want to take my time, I've taken 6 months to do certain pieces, for people,
No
because
kidding. Okay.
also I could be in the middle of trying to learn something new, but I know it'll fit that project, but I want to perfect it before I can adapt it to what I'm trying to do. So it kind of fluctuates, but if people want to do a commission with me, I typically say like, just give me like a couple months, because that also allows for life and work and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of the pieces behind you, which one, and if you can show us while you kind of speak to it, but which one was kind of like the most challenging? And then I guess the next question would be what made it so challenging?
Sure. Let's see. The most challenging. So just I've been messing with this one for and out like,
The suitcase. I love that.
yeah, probably 8 months. But that's that. Like there'll be periods where I just don't touch it. I just want to look at it and absorb. But it's the line work is more, and you can see I haven't touched up these areas here yet, but they're a lot more fine. And so when I want to go over with the brush, it's a lot more steady. I'm trying to be, excuse me, be more careful with it. As opposed to these ones, I'm more free in my line work, and I kind of base it off of almost like, you could say like fashion or art drawings, building construction drawings. And I like how sometimes they go outside the lines. And so with this one, yeah, it's just a lot more constructed, and it just takes me a little bit longer.
Do you mix any of your own colors? I feel like a lot of the artists that I speak to, it's kind of like break even. It's like 50% of them just use the colors as they come and they kind of blend and do what you do. And then there's some artists that mix their own pigment, which is something that I never even really thought about until I started doing these studio visits. So I'm just kind of curious if you're kind of using off the shelf things and then mixing them as you kind of paint it, or if you're actually making your own pigment.
I have not gotten into mixing like my own colors or anything like that. Not yet. At least because I don't
Okay.
have like a strict color palette. Someone like Matt Gondek, who has these really iconic like neon yellows and the pinks.
Yeah,
I
and
know,
the pinks.
yeah, I know he definitely does stuff like that. I don't have that quite yet. Maybe one day. I definitely mix to get obviously certain colors and stuff like that. But
Absolutely.
yeah, for the most part, it's what I find, and sometimes like there's a lot of happy accidents that happen with the work, and then from there I'll just try and replicate that in other pieces, try and keep it in the back of my head and be like, that'll work for this.
I could imagine. And one of the things, and I'm just going to bring up Amy again because obviously the introduction and whatnot, but I always ask kind of like, what's the inspiration behind the work and if there's any message there. And Amy had such a genuine response, and I just loved it. And I think it was something to the effect of like, I just like to make a really cool art, you know. And it's not like there really wasn't a message there. It's just about creating something that was really joyful and really playful. So I'm just, you know, kind of curious to see what it's like in your world.
You know, giving Amy some props for connecting us too, because man, she's awesome. She was really generous with her time when she came down. I hit her up out of the blue through Instagram, and she was gracious enough to come to the studio and do a podcast, and that was really fun. And I've actually experimented with some of the techniques that she had told me about, and like doing molds and stuff, and that's really fun.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and then in terms of like, sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, no problem. It was just about like if there's a message behind the work or
Oh,
like the inspiration, or if the goal is similar to Amy, where it's just like, I'm just trying to make something that looks really cool and that's fun and playful.
yeah, there's not really so much like messages that I'm like trying to get across, more so like just fun thoughts, I would say, like, or stories, things that have happened in my life. For example, another one that's here on my bachelor party, I went to Austin, Texas, and when I was at one of the bars with my friends, I saw this neon sign right before you went to the bathroom, and it said, Jesus wouldn't do coke in the bathroom. And I thought that I thought it was funny. And so this is
That's
where it
amazing.
goes. I'm like, it immediately thought of that movie Dogma. Have you ever seen it?
I have not, no, but the sign sounds amazing and I want it now.
Yes. And so in the movie, it's a Kevin Smith movie. It's really funny. It's got Ben Affleck, Chris Rock, a bunch of people like that. So in the beginning of the movie, the Catholic Church puts out their new like logo or sign of like Jesus and stuff. And I'm sure you've seen the imagery. It's Buddy Christ going like this. And so that's what popped in my head. And then that's what I put here. And so it's again another work in progress. But so I put some Louis on them. I thought that was fun. And then I just put a bunch of different characters that I associated, with that. And then of course you got Uma back here from
Yep.
Pulp Fiction. So a lot of it will just be either playful thoughts or memories that I've had. Um, very movie driven, very movie show driven. Sometimes I'll hear a quote and that'll fire off an idea.
You got the quote in that one. It seems like, you know, the more that I look at these pieces, the more that I see in them, the more that like I'll notice like, oh, there's a character that I didn't notice before. And I think that kind of goes back to like what you were saying about having these like hidden kind of gems in it, because like who wants to look at the same painting every day, right? Whereas
Right.
like if you look at it and there's something more that you see every time, it makes it all the more joyful.
Oh,
Um, are there any artists? Alec Monopoly, of course, immediately comes to mind just because he's one of the most famous. But I mean, are there any artists, whether it's Alec or someone else, that you kind of look up to or take inspiration from?
definitely. I mean, at the start of my career would have been Shepard Fairey, of course. Like that's graphic design, that's poster making and pasting. And then throughout, you know, just the time that I've been doing this, there, uh, Timmy Sneaks is a great one. He's an artist out of Boston, and
Okay.
he's one of those guys that he has really really controlled, characters that are going in and out of each other. Matt Gondek is another big one. Snipped out of Vegas is a really cool guy, and we've been talking a lot. There's a lot of digital and pasting. Let's see. Dane, I think he's a New York artist. He's another one that,
Dane's amazing. I've seen some of his stuff.
yeah.
I mean, all the artists that you mentioned, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, are very good. But I'm also biased because I really like street art.
Yeah.
So,
Amy, like, when I first saw Amy's stuff, I was just like, that was one of those, I don't know, just something you never really see. It kind of just took me out of like the normal stuff. It's very 2D of what we do, and cool. So
for sure. So I'm gonna open it up for questions in a moment. I guess the only other question that I have for you, what are your thoughts on NFTs? Is that something that you as an artist are exploring? And just what do you think of that? Because I've gotten some really mixed responses on that. Some people seem to be very pro NFT because it's such a great way for like the artist to be able to directly benefit from the work instead of going through gallery and whatnot. But then I've definitely have had other artists who have been like, this is not like a real thing. So
right.
I'll let the audience think of their questions if there's any. So while they're doing that, if you could just tell us what you think of NFTs, that'd be great.
I think it's really interesting what you could possibly do with NFTs. I think kind of like how Bored Ape Yacht Club was doing their thing, how they basically saying that you can have rights to do whatever you want with it, but also it's a club membership when you buy it. But I'm like, okay, well, I could pretty much adopt that same principle and say, buy one of my NFTs. Maybe you get access to a special art show throughout the year where it's only collector, and you have to have that to be invited, and exclusive paintings, and maybe I'm only doing one of ones, or I've wanted to do coins. Like I'm gonna go off on a tangent in a minute, but these are really cool. I'm actually working on. I don't know enough about it. Let's just say that. I still want to do like my research to do it right, to do like a really cool project, to make it worthwhile for whoever's going to invest in it. I have a character in mind. It's actually based off of one of my pet rabbits that passed away. And so
Oh no, sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. But it's really cute. So it's this rabbit vampire, but it's a bunch of different, of course, pop culture characters. I can actually show you one if you'd like while we're waiting for some more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if nothing populates in the comment box, we'll close this out. While you're pulling that up, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it.
No problem. So here's one of the just kind of like regular ones.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you.
I can see that on OpenSea.
Right? And then I was having fun with it, and like, man, what if I did like a cool pizza one? Or then you start getting into pop culture, and I'm like, let's see what a Spider-Man one would look like.
I could see it now playing on TikTok.
Yeah.
So it looks like we've got no additional questions. So thank you all for tuning in. Code, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Love the work. We'll definitely be sure to post this up on the feed, and we'll make some real shorts out of it. But thank you so much again, and thank you, Amy, for the introduction. Everyone, have a great night.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See you guys.
Anytime.